City Lutherie in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And in this video, we've got something real special here. Got an all original 1964 Hofner 501 bass. It's the same thing Paul McCartney played, a few years newer than that. And it has an issue with the electronics here. Turn the volume up. You can hear everything's getting some sound. You can go solo to rhythm. Turn the bass pickup on and off. But we get over here to the treble, and everything cuts out. No response from the volume pot. So I've got to go in and diagnose that and get this back up and running. So there are going to be two key tools to doing this, to diagnose what's going on with the instrument. We've got our multimeter, and I've modified mine. They usually have little pointers on them. I clip those off and put on some alligator clips. This way I can clip onto the ground wire here and a hot lead there, and I can tell if there's if there's any continuity going between those two things, rather than trying to hold the probes in place. And also I have taken a guitar cable and I cut off the plug on one end and added alligator clips, one to the hot and one to the ground. This is nice if you're trying to diagnose whether a pickup or the potentiometer or other components are working in an instrument. You can actually clip these on and then plug the other end into the amp and actually get sound. You can kind of tell what's going on with it. So these are things that are important on a job like this. Sometimes you may figure things out without using either of these, but these are just some of the things that I like to do, and just a couple little. I like to use the alligator clips rather than the probes. So to start off, if you have any parts that are crackling or kind of cutting out, the first thing you want to do is try cleaning them. Get yourself some contact cleaner. Typically the Deoxit brand is pretty well known and good, reliable brand. Spray it on the slider contacts inside the switches here. If these, there's a little notch here on the side of the potentiometers. If you had more modern pots like this, you want to get the straw right in there behind the tabs, and that then turn it around good in there. Well, I'm not getting any response. This slider is not responding, and that's for the bridge pickup. I did have the ground wire break off the chassis ground. There's a wire from the tailpiece that connects to the rest of this, but that's not going to be the issue here. I'll have to put a new one in. So what I'm going to do, so we've got our connections here. This goes to that bridge pickup. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clip here and here and get the amp turned on, see if we've got anything going. Don't want those to touch. Amp is on, and there is no sound. So it's indicating we have an issue with the pickup. Get my multimeter out here and we'll just verify that a second way. See what this says. Black goes to ground. Red goes on the hot. And we're getting no reading at all. So we're going to disconnect the bridge pickup, pull it out, and start inspecting to find out what's going on with the pickup. We've got the pickup taken out, so we want to test this again. I'm going to do the ground and the hot. Turn the multimeter on, proper setting, and we're getting no reading again. So I'm going to have to open the pickup up and see if we've got any connections that have come loose. But I've got kind of a hunch that it's probably going to end up being a rewind on this. So the next step is going to take a fresh razor blade, and along here and along here we need to break that solder, because the the cover is soldered on. You can see there and there. So we got to break that, and then we'll be able to remove everything. All right, when I get a close-up look at the pickup before I go any further with this, just to kind of examine how things are fastened together and have an appropriate plan of action so I don't damage anything. Now, unlike like a humbucker, there's usually some screws going through that will screw into the bobbin. There's just some pins here. There's 4 of them. You can see it's right there, and then these 2 go into the middle of the bobbin. So I'm just going to have to very carefully slide this off. I'm going to have to pry it somehow. Use like start off with something soft to try and work its way off. Then once I have it removed, definitely make note of the orientation of the magnets. I'm going to try and keep everything together. The blade here, this isn't the actual magnet. This is just a piece of steel. Magnets are down here, and the magnetic field gets directed upwards, and you have this here. So all that I'll try and keep in the exact same orientation, have everything go back to the way it was. Granted, if this gets put in backwards, it's not going to sound any different or anything, but with the magnets, definitely do not want to get those flipped around, because if I do, I could end up with the pickups out of phase with each other. So definitely need to take note of if these give a north or south polarity. I'm going to have a little fun with this. I made a, I guess maybe counter spool. It's a spool of empty spool, had solder on it before. I have some nuts, lock washers on a piece of threaded rod, and what I'm going to do is put this in the chuck of my drill, and then with the pickup bobbin mounted on my pickup winder, I will tape the end of the wire here and then use the drill to unwind the pickup bobbin to find out just how many winds are on the pickup, so I can rewind it and be as accurate as possible. This is what I have for a pickup winder. I have one of the old Shatton Designs pickup winder. I don't remember who I got this from. I may have just gotten it direct from them. It just has a little electric motor inside. It spins the spindle here. You can wind on either side to go clockwise or counterclockwise. Have your limiter sets here, and you're just holding the wire. I use a little spring clamp to hold the wire. It gives like just the right amount of tension, because you don't want the wire to be going on loose. You have these mounting pieces. For my own pickups, I've drilled some holes. I have my own ways of mounting. I use some screws and bolts and whatever to fasten things securely. It has a counter here, and I'm showing this ahead of time because I'm going to try and unwind the pickup, see if I can do that successfully. You got a little counter on there, and it's just as it goes around, it flips the number, but it can also go the opposite way, and it'll still count. That way, if I'm on either side to get it to unwind, it'll still give me a pretty accurate count of what I need to do. All right, now I have the pickup unspooled, and I came to a turn count of 8,600 and roughly around 40. So I'll be wrapping it that many times, going back together. Once I found that out, I conferred with a pickup winder here in Minneapolis, Jesse at Rebel Custom Pickups. I'll put a link to his website and Instagram in the About section for this video. I conferred with him, and he's rewound some of these pickups before, and he agrees that's kind of the average for these types of pickups, the number of turns. And he also agrees that it's a 44 American wire gauge, and he said to go with the polynylon insulation that is accurate to what was used. And these insulations, you won't see it inside, but kind of the important thing is the insulation can be a little thicker from different type to type. And that can make the coil end up being a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, which can affect how the pickup changes when it's done. I'll show some examples here. This is heavy foam bar. This has been used in a lot of old pickups. It's very golden color. It's all copper underneath that, so if you stripped it away, it would look just the same as this. But this insulation is just a tiny, tiny bit thicker than the others. So if you want to have like the same number of turns but a little bit fatter coil, you can go with something like this. I use this on my base pickup site that I make. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of plain enamel before. This is what plain enamel looks like. Sometimes it's almost black in color. And this is basically the standard. Lots and lots of pickups have been wound with this. And if I opened up this pickup and was plain enamel, I would be using that. But did our little research, make sure we're going to use the exact same thing to put it back together. So it's time to start winding this pickup. A couple things to go over before I actually start putting coil wire back on this, winding it up. I'm going to take a look at the bobbin here. Can't get in real close with my camera, but I took some fine sandpaper, went inside here, made sure that there were no burrs, nothing to catch on. Just make sure it's nice and smooth, because we're going to be putting some real thin wire back on there, and we don't want it to fail after we've done that. I didn't show this ahead of time, but this is how I mount the bobbin. I drilled some holes in the whatever you'd call these, the aluminum platforms. This little spacer, because we've got these two attachment legs here, and this just slides through the middle. Then I put some nuts on, make sure it's all nice and centered. You don't want it to be off to the side one way or the other. You got to make sure that everything's all nice and in the middle. Now I need to hide my tracks. So I showed you how I had to replace a couple wires. That's not really a big deal because it's inside. But we've got the pickup cover, the solder joint here that I had to reflow. This is now real shiny, looks brand new. It's a little hard to see here, but like right over here, this part didn't get reflowed. It was, off to the side. It's really dull, dark gray. Real big contrast between those parts. If you can see it, I'll try and post a still picture of it as well. So what I'm going to use is this is for stained glass. You can change the color of your solder. You can blacken it, add patina to it. So this is black patina. I'm going to take a dead pot, I took this out in a repair a few days ago, but I hung on to it because I knew I was going to need it for this. But it's got some relatively fresh solder joints. What I'm going to do is I have a little cup of water. I'm going to add some of this patina to the water. And this is a really dark solder joint we're trying to do. Usually you don't have to do this much, but I'm going to start off by adding 3 of these pipettes and see what I get. All right, let's see here. Hopefully this is good enough right off the bat. And it's doing a little bit. Still not quite enough. So I'll just keep adding a little more. I'll do maybe about 20 water. It's getting pretty diluted, but yeah, there we go. That is definitely graying it a lot more. Let's see if I can. Not sure if how well you can see that, but you can see right here where I was adding it. Definitely a real dull gray. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it on my solder joints on the pickup. See if we can get, yeah, a little spotty. I'm going to go back and touch it up a little bit, like right in there. It's still shiny. Over here it's still shiny, but that's working pretty good. I'll take a still picture of the end result because I'll probably be able to see the result better. And there you have it, another successful repair. We've got a pickup that's been brought back to life. A bass is fully functional. I also did spray some cleaners in the controls to make sure everything's operating properly. And I'd like to once again give a special thanks to Revel Pickups here in Minneapolis. Check out their website or Instagram. Jesse there does make his own line of pickups that are already pre-made, and he does pickup repairs as well. With if you had a Stratocaster pickup or a Gibson humbucker come in from like 1967, you can look up the information and have a pretty good idea of how many wraps you need to put on that pickup and how many the turn count or the layering count. Like you want, let's say 100 turns per pass, and then you go back the other direction. You need to keep that accurate to the original. Those are common pickups. That information's out there, but it was nice that we're able to share some information. So once again, thanks to Jesse, and I'll be getting this guitar back to the owner soon. If you have any questions on any of the repairs that in my videos or something like this, just use the contact information in the About section of my YouTube page, or I'll have it in the credits as well. And we'll see you in the next video.